Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk and You're Gonna Listen, or you're gonna click away. And this is Chance Paladin, and this is Bunker Codes episode something. I don't know. I have a wonderful live studio audience with me tonight who will remain anonymous. This is kind of like an AMA episode. Chance working on books. I'm ready. My friend got mono, so I try another route. I will succeed. Oh, your friend got mono. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I hope they get better. And yes, lots of people in the chat. It's a Friday night. It has been a hellacious, ridiculous week. It is a beautiful weekend, and I would love nothing more but to go camping, and be in the forest. But I also know that, as weird as it sounds, I really have to be in the right headspace to go camping. Not because anything bad will happen, but because I won't be able to absorb what's going on. And I found that out 6 months ago. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought, hey, how's it going? Yep, I see you. I see you in chat. I'm just not using your names to protect the innocent. But yes, I see you. I appreciate you. Lots of wonderful people in chat. What's today? St. Patrick's Day. Also, I didn't even know. Things have been insane. Yeah, so I'm talking about a million things at once. I apologize. So before I get into my camping thing, if you want me to start throwing your names out there in chat, I will. The problem is that your names will be immortalized on my streams forever, and while I put all your names in my book in the time capsule, I don't really know how much all of you really want to be immortalized on my... Apologize for the dogs barking. They are undisciplined dogs. Throwing my cough drop in. Nobody's complained about my cough drops, which is nice. It's just how I keep my voice from getting thrashed. So, this has been an insane week. Don't say your name. Don't say your name. And for those of you who are newer, you might not know like the routine that I go through when I write. I tend to write when there's very little chance for civil unrest, besides the normal amount of civil unrest, and when the propensity for things to go very, very bad gets worse, I stop writing. That way, in case anything happens to me, the series doesn't just like stop mid-book, because that is not what I want to happen. I keep pretty good notes, and I keep them on my coffee page. Shout out for Buy Me a Coffee. That's where I keep all my notes. And I'm going to continue keeping my notes there, so in case anything does happen to me, somebody can go finish my stories. I have recently found out that there's a lot of other... Not a lot. I have found multiple authors who may or may not have taken very good notes and then passed away mid-series. And it's really hard on the fans. And what I didn't want is to garner a following and then just drop off the radar. That is what happened to my favorite series when I was a kid, called the Gunslinger series by Stephen King, who I know is a sleazebag. But I got into that series, and then it just stops at like book 3, and he stopped writing for a long time, and I was so used to reading series that were like long since done I just assumed every series that I read was complete. And it's the same thing with TV shows too. I just assumed every TV show I watched was going to have an ending. And so I was really shocked getting into the Gunslinger series to find out he'd only gone through like book 3. Amazing series. And by the time the next one came out, I was at a very different time in my life. And the book didn't hit the same way that the others did. And I never finished the series. And I didn't want to do that to my fans. So as soon as I started writing, that was one of the very first rules that I gave to myself. That's part of it. The other part of it's headspace. So as I get closer, there may be some blue on blue action going on in my chat. You guys are funny. So as I get closer to things happening, my whole demeanor and attitude and my mindset and everything change, because I'm getting ready for stuff to happen. And even if I don't personally know, I can feel it. I can feel when things are about to happen. Not like that bullshit that I'm an empath, I can feel when things happen. Oh, no, you can't. Something's gonna happen on XYZ date, I just have a bad feeling. No, you don't. Those people shut the hell up really fast. Some really big things are coming within the next 2 months. And this is why I made sure I had everything wrapped up. I've been playing around with the card game idea. I don't think I have the energy. It's so much fun to play with. I don't think I'll be able to finish it anytime soon, but it's something I'm chipping away on. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to write some coffee stuff. But I have a feeling I'll empath them, got your boots on. Empath your foot up their ass. I think I'm going to be pulling back from a lot of things. I think I'm going to be pulling back from a lot more things than normal. My normal pullbacks, because I think emotionally I have pushed myself so far back. No. I've pushed myself so far past my kind of survival point. I've been in survival mode for so long, way longer than I've ever been, and I somehow managed to push all the way through it and past it, which is scary because I may be becoming somebody that I'm not familiar with anymore. And I think that this is going to be something that's a lot more people are going to be experiencing soon, as we get pushed so far out of our bubbles that our bubbles pop, and then new bubbles have to form. And I think that's going to happen to a lot of us very soon. My building at work that they make us go to every week, despite us being able to work from home, technically, there are 3 homeless tents outside of it now. It started with 1, and very quickly there was one next to it, and very quickly there was one next to that. And summer is coming, and I think when summer comes, the homeless from California are going to move north where it's a little bit cooler. And I think the homeless population is going to absolutely be out of control. I think fentanyl is keeping the homeless population down, but I don't think they will be able to. This sounds horrible, but it's just math. I don't think they'll be able to keep enough fentanyl in circulation to keep the homeless down. And I truly believe that at least part of this fentanyl epidemic is specifically to keep the homeless population down. Because I think, I talked about this on my last episode, I think they have no answer for the fact that they're not building any more houses. They have all these empty buildings because all of the stores are gone, and almost all the commercial buildings are empty because everybody has left the cities. It is not safe, and yet there's still people that are forced to go there. And it's getting more and more and more and more dangerous. And I think this summer, it's going to finally hit its peak. Meanwhile, the cities are like, we hired 5 more cops. It's like, you're like 700 cops behind, and the cops that you have don't even live in the city that they're protecting because they can't. I think this summer is going to be really, really, really bad. Obviously, for security purposes, I don't tell people where I live, but I live in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, so you can just take your pick. All the cities are equally bad. I think everybody thinks this isn't going to happen to me, or it's not going to be as bad and stuff, and even like preppers. Even though I've been like speculatively writing fiction for a very, very long time, seeing it, like, no matter how much you write about it and talk about it, it is just a whole other thing to see it. Like, you can talk about strategy and tactics, and you can talk about how bad things are going to be until you're blue in the face. And until you start seeing the tents pop up around your building, or until you start seeing people in your yard, like, you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's fine. But like, I think very soon we're going to be seeing things getting a lot worse, because more people are going to be losing their houses because inflation's still going up. This bank thing, I think the Fed's just going to double down, because Europe's inflation already went up like another 0.5 point or something like that. So I'm sure ours is too. I don't think the Fed cares, because they bailed the bank out and everything's fine, and now the bank is just going to go for bankruptcy, and it's going to restructure like all the other banks are going to be emboldened by this. And there's going to be more layoffs, interest rates are going to get higher, food's going to get more expensive. And I think like what happened last summer, it wasn't really bad during the summer. You could kind of tell it was bad, but they could kind of hide it a little bit. Then when fall happened, food and fuel prices shot through the roof, and it just screwed everybody. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of civil unrest this summer. And then I think the next fall and winter is going to be even worse. And then it'll be time for ice cream cone in chief to start his new campaign, and it's just going to be a cluster. And I know the VP probably isn't going to be running. They're probably going to try to get a new VP. Bless the cackling hyena's heart. She was handed a bad deck of cards and is in just way over her head. So I'm sure they're gonna choose. I'm not like making excuses for her, but what I'm saying is that she was set up to fail. And much where the prior Mr. 45's VP could kind of just sit there and be quiet and then kind of slowly tackle things here and there. I think 46's VP has been given tons and tons of opportunities, except they're all like no-win situations. And she's not allowed to just say, hey, I'm in way over my head and these are no-win situations. Can you go with your next pick and I can just go home? Which is, I'm sure, what she wants to do. I don't think she wants to be president. I think she wants to just go home. I think she's petrified. So I don't know. What am I trying to say here? So my mindset's changing, and you'd think like going camping would clear my head, right? Or playing games would clear my head, or watching a movie or going for a walk would clear my head. But it's all very, very, very temporary. Until you really like talk through things with people that will listen to you and try to start coming up with some kind of coping mechanisms and some kind of plan, you can't really enjoy anything or make any smart decisions at all, which is why you have to be so careful to not self-destruct and self-sabotage. Yeah. So that's why so many people get into prepping, because it is a massive coping mechanism and it helps you channel all of your fears and frustrations and concerns, and it gives you something to aim towards to make it feel like you're doing something instead of just putting a bandage on it, or I don't know, just going to bed and like sleeping knowing full well your problem's gonna be procrastinating. Not even procrastinating, just like trying to run the clock out. Like, so going camping doesn't really help, because then you're just out there spinning your wheels. And sure, there will be like things to do there, so you can be distracted for a little while. It doesn't really help you. Like, what you have to do is maintain a level of patience enough to try to keep accomplishing things without self-destructing and self-sabotaging, and it is so hard. And so I think I'm going to be taking a step back from a lot of stuff, and that's going to be hard. But I'm into like really new territory now for myself, because I think I'm finally starting to understand where I exist in the world. And I realized that hard work has nothing to do with anything. Because people claiming that they work hard and people that claim that they're holy cow. My alerts are really loud. So this whole like hard work thing, which I've talked about in prior podcasts, people have been claiming to be working hard their whole lives, and they're not. You can tell who's busy and who's not busy. It is really easy because the people who are busy aren't bugging you all the time. Or if they are, they're bugging you with things that are actually on, relevant, or they're at least trying to work their way there. The people who aren't busy, they talk more about less constantly. It's not important. It's not relevant. It makes no sense. It has nothing to do with anything. And they can do it for longer and longer and longer periods of time than everybody else. The problem is traditionally, clock suckers, that is pretty much perfect, because these people, what do you mean these people? They can eat up, if you're not careful, they will eat up your whole day talking about nothing and accomplishing nothing. And goodness forbid if you ever need their help with anything, because even if they technically could help you, they never will. Because they'll want to socialize for like 45 minutes. And the first couple times it's nice because you feel like, okay, I'm getting to know this person, where I have to be able to work this with this person. They might not be my friend, but they waste time like no other. Yeah. And I used to tell a friend of mine that had this problem with other friends that they assured was not me. What you do is you get a watch. If you don't sit by a clock, you get a watch. And you just start looking at the time over and over, and you go, okay, just letting you know, I have to go in 5 minutes. And if they don't respect that, then you have, then you've got a clock sucker on your hands. They will talk forever about nothing, and then all of a sudden when they have to go, it's like dealing with a cat. You want them to sit on your lap and you want to watch TV, or you want to watch your show, and then the cat won't sit on your lap, and then as soon as you get up, all of a sudden the cat wants to sit on your lap. And then so you start another show, and then the cat just gets up right in the middle of the show. Like, that's what these people are like, except they're completely useless and not at all enjoyable, like having a cat around us. So you end up with more and more and more of these people. What are they called? They're either like type B or type C personalities. I can't remember. No. Type Bs. Is that right? The ones that just talk and talk and talk, and C's are the data and D's are the analysts, right? So like they will talk and talk and talk. Nobody will fire their asses. That is the problem. Fire their asses, because they will act. I call them B's that act like C's. They're social, but they act like they're data driven, but they're not. They're social. And it doesn't matter if you're in like a mutual, aid sort of a group, or if you're on some kind of like team or, work. These people, they suck the life out of you. They suck the energy out of you, and they will swear up and down how busy they are. And they do nothing all day. But here's the thing. They have figured out how to maintain positive visibility. That is their benefit to society. That's, or not their benefit. That's their staying power, their lasting power. Social butterflies without the butter. That's yeah, that's like type B personalities, like right there. They're social butterflies, but they don't produce anything. But they have everybody fooled. This is the bizarre part. They have everybody fooled into thinking that they're invaluable. But really they are the most worthless people, and they have diluted what hard, smart work really means. And the problem is, I used to call them viruses. That used to be my name for them, as viruses, because their BS tends to replicate. When they can't drag you into their stupid waste of time social circle, because they seem to have no concept of time at all, or being able to produce anything when you need it, or respecting somebody else trying to produce, anyway, all that aside, if you don't want to play their game, sooner or later they will get enough of their social buddies, and they'll gang up on you. They will find some reason to other you, and sooner or later you will find yourself at the receiving end of a bunch of these idiots. And they have diluted what work means, what value means, because you can work your ass off all day, and these people are making the same amount as you, or more, or sometimes a lot more, and they're going to get promoted way before you. They have families, they have houses, and they have not legitimately earned any of it. And yet our society has encouraged just baseless mediocrity for such a long time, that as soon as you work with a group that's even remotely able to work at higher than a moderate level, it feels like insanely high speed, because you're just so used to working with just below mediocrity. And it's like, why don't we just have why haven't we just gone to like AIs by now? I'm starting to like realize that you really don't need most of these people. And I've felt like this for a long time, and I've seen it in places before. They have something else to do, and then you look and they're not even doing that. Oh, totally. Well, or in the middle of you talking to them, they just are looking at their phone. And then they go back to the desk. They go back to their desk and they're back on their phone. And then outside later, they're on their phone. And then they're downstairs on their phone. Like, when they're not on their phone, they're talking to people. They produce like one thing a week. And just because that's their one thing that gives them like visibility. The problem is, it wouldn't be a big deal if they would shut up. The problem is they don't. I have worked at tech companies before. They won't just shut up and stay in their lane. Hey, welcome. That's the problem. Like, they have no they have no, I want to say like endeavor, but that's not the right word. They're not trying to achieve anything. They're just barely putting in their time. They are doing the bare minimum. And yet because they put in their time, they get rewarded. They do just enough to barely skate along. They will never create anything. They will never add any value to anything. They just barely scoot along. Which again, don't care as long as they stay in their lane, which they don't. They're like the slow driver on the freeway. They're like the slow driver in the fast lane that won't move over. They have to hold everybody else up because deep down at the end of the day, they know that they're slowing everybody else down. They're trying to drag everybody down to their level because it scares them that everybody else is dramatically outproducing them. And it used to be that they would just stay at work longer than everybody else. But they can't do that anymore because of working from home. And there's a lot of people that have 2 or 3 jobs now. And so them staying longer doesn't actually add any value. I work for 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day, and then I work on my book all night long. It's like almost 2 full-time jobs. One of those jobs makes money, though, and the other one will eventually, hopefully someday, make money. But if not, at least it's helping people. And I can help other people with their projects. But the rest of these people, what do? They live their whole life doing the bare minimum, and then they go do their own things, and they're just screwing around the rest of the time, or they're watching stupid football, or they're just consuming, watching metric tons of stupid MCU movies, memorizing sports stats, pretending to be, fake Christians, and then telling everybody else they're not Christian enough, as if Christians could fix the homeless crisis. As if Christians could fix the border problem. How does that even make sense? A giant chunk of Mexico is Catholic. So, which Christians exactly are supposed to fix? Like, how do Christians fix the fentanyl problem? How do Christians fix the border? How do Christians fix gang violence? I don't understand. And then it's like, oh, domestic extremism, this, that, XYZ, which is like statistically 0. I don't get it. Actual gun violence, which is like statistically 0 for how many people we are. The impressive ones at my workplace have a competition to be the earliest to log a team chat saying they're working 7 and 6 and 5:30. Some days I've only gone to sleep 2 hours before that. It's funny that you say that. So like, I've worked on projects where we did actually put in like 14 to 16 hour days, and we were in a competition to see who was going to get in the office first. And at one point we were starting work, but this was when we were actually going back in the office. This was at a tech place. We were going in the office at like 4:30 in the morning, and we were working until 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and then going home and then turning our computers back on. I was one of the leads. The other lead was putting in over 100 hours a week. And he got in trouble. he got his hand slapped. He was putting in over 100 hours a week. Which is pretty funny. I can't remember like what the max I ever worked was, but I was doing like 12-hour days, And then I think there was a couple times there where I was, because we were doing like interface stuff, so I was working like Saturdays too. But we were already in the office for like 12 to 14 hours a day. We didn't have like a chat. We didn't have team chats back then though. We were like physically in the office. The people who log in early do nothing really except report they're working. Yeah, I can't imagine what that's like now. I can tell you that I beat everybody online in the morning. But that's because I like checking the systems. And when you work with East Coast, you just learn to get on really, really early. And you just adjust your schedule to work with the East Coast. But no, there's no competition on who gets on early anymore, because there was only one other person that ever got in before me in what I'm doing now, and he retired. So I'm the first person in, except for the folks that are work swings and graves. Yeah, that's exactly it. So when I was working like 12, 14, 16 hour days, me and my buddy each had a team, and the reason why we were working those hours is because we had to get there early to prep our team's work every day. We had to see how far they got the day before, because nobody was staying around for that at so damn late. We had to be awake enough to drive ourselves home after 12, 14 hours, 15 hour days. So we would go home, log them back on if we had to, go to bed, come back, and then what we were doing is we would review their work, and then we were prepping for their day's worth of work. So it made sense to put in 12, 14 hours. It made sense to get there. Like, I have to check a system now. It makes sense for me to get on before everybody else. But you're right. Like, managers really should be able to tell the difference between... In fact, I know people who have worked in departments like that. And basically what you start doing is you start seeing how many tickets everybody's actually working. And I remember working at a place and looking at their metrics. And the difference between like the highest person and the lowest person was like a 30 ticket difference or something. It was some just like massive, huge delta between like the top person and the bottom person. And I can't remember why on earth they couldn't let that person go. They had him on like performance plans and stuff, and just for some reason, no matter what they did, they could not get this person. I don't even think they were handicapped. They weren't handicapped or anything. Like, they just did not physically produce work. They had little tickets to do. They were just not doing them. And you could look at the metric, and it was the same person every week at the bottom by a lot. They were not trying. You could even have somebody sit with them, and it didn't matter. Like, the lights were on, but they just did not have work ethic. They should not have been there. Period. And people like that are occupying positions where there are hard-working people that actually legitimately want to produce and feel like they worked an honest day. But here's the problem, like, if I had to build a team, I don't think I would necessarily want people who just produce. Although that's important, I need thinkers who have a destination in sight. I want if I was filling a team, I would want people who want to actually go somewhere and do something. Not just put in their time and then go to Tahoe or go to spring break, whatever dumb shit people do. Go to Hawaii. Like, that's nice. Taking vacation's nice. I haven't had a vacation in 6 months. I love a vacation, right? And yeah, there should be a work-life balance. But I want people who actually want to go somewhere and do something. I want people who want to make the world a better place than when they got shat out here. Like, it's great that people like want to work. The people who want to work, that's great. That's important. That's helpful. But I also want those people to want to grow. And what's funny is, like, that whole interview question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years or whatever? Like, I don't even know anymore if anybody even knows where they want to be anymore. Maybe work hard and apply themselves in sprints as projects as needed, then go back a couple weeks and recharge. Yeah, that would be great. The problem is the people who actually produce get effing worked to death. And there's no break between sprints. And it just blends into one giant, never-ending sprint with no breaks. Are we not supposed to say in the boss's chair? No, because I don't think being the boss should be the end goal. Because there's a lot of bosses who are effing worthless. Who shouldn't even be employed at all. Anywhere, let alone managing people. They're either sociopaths or they're just so fake that they're useless, and they're a detriment to their team because they have no clue what they're doing. So that's why I've never wanted to be the boss. I'm like, do you know why nobody likes the boss? Because they are useless and they just refuse to say that they're useless. Because they're too scared. Because they know that the way they got their job was a miracle and that there's no way they could reproduce that. They'll be at McDonald's. Burnout for those can do well. Right. And that's exactly what happens. And that's where I've been. I've been on a 3-year project with basically no breaks. Working through all the holidays because they kept telling us how behind we were, which was not our fault. And so we burned the midnight oil and the candle on both ends and shit. And now that the project's launched, there's going to be more. There's going to be more, which is fine. But a lot of the people that still have nervous energy and still have no idea what they're doing have thrived on this atmosphere of like frenetic energy and refuse to let it go. They refuse to let the frenetic project energy die back down so we can chill for a little bit. And much like COVID, where people didn't get to mourn their losses and rest, I think people are in such a hurry for everything to go back to normal and to feel normal and to be normal that they're just in a race to get everybody back in the office again and just get back into that nervous energy where they were comfortable, instead of like everybody chilling the hell out and Because here's the problem. They act like they have all this nervous energy, and then they go on vacation anyway because of BS. Gotta take care of laundry. Yeah, take care. Appreciate you swinging by. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Like, they live and thrive on this frenetic energy because I think they can hide in it. And then they immediately go on vacation. And how I know this is because I have 5 or 6 people doing this to me right now, where they send me tickets that there's problems, and then they leave, and I message them back right away, and I find out they're out of office for 3 or 4 days. And this has happened to me multiple times last week because spring break's coming up. And what happens is this has been happening to me ever since I joined like the corptocracy. People get this nervous, frenetic energy, and then they want to leave because they want to go have their life. They want to have their life. So before they leave, they dump everything on the person that they know takes responsibility for everything. Because that's the person that wants to make everything better. That's the person that wants to go somewhere and be something and take the project somewhere. You know, the dreamy-eyed, you know, like, I haven't been worn down by all of their mediocrity because I believe that we can take all of this that we do. I believe that we can take this somewhere. I can't do it alone. And but finding anybody else that wants to take this to the next level, or any project. I can't find people, or I can only find 1 or 2, and then they just get buried like me. And then I see everybody else leave and jump ship that was worth half a crap. But then I had this epiphany. I realized, and I never had any resentment towards them, but I couldn't figure out why they were all leaving. And I realized they were all leaving because I was stuck in a dead-end trap. I'm the go-to guy, and they somehow get credit for taking care of it. Otherwise, the customers might challenge the hours you're spending solving the unsolvable. That's exactly it. And I was so scared for so long to actually like bill the hours that I was working, that I was really working, because I was afraid if I billed the hours that I was actually working, that they would start looking into what I was doing and they would start digging into my time. And about, I want to say like at the end of January, the beginning of February, when our team got cut in half, I realized, and it's even further down now, there's actually only a handful of us left. I realized that they can dig into the time I'm working all they want. There's none of us left. And every boss upstream for at least 6 weeks now has been CC'd into every single ticket. So they know we're buried. And there is nothing they can do about it. And they can't challenge me on my hours anymore. I mean, they could, but I'm not worried about them doing it anymore because they have every ticket. And they are doing exactly what you say. They're deferring all of their responsibility, all the other folks that work on what I work on. They're deferring all their responsibility. They're like taking their tickets and basically forwarding them to me. Basically. And then they're taking not insignificant chunks of time off while I work on the issues. While I'm stuck with the anxiety of trying to fix everything because I care. Because I want this to go good. Because I don't want our department to be seen as a failure. I don't want the project and everybody on the project's names to be like tarnished for all eternity. As like, oh, you were on that project? Like, those of you have... I love my job. Absolutely love my job. I think every like major corptocracy job I've ever had, I've been put there at the right place at the right time to do the right thing. I have a very, very, very special set of skills that almost nobody in the industry has. I found my niche a long time ago, and I can do things that nobody else can do by far. And nobody else can even come close except for some people that have been very deliberately, formally trained to do what I do, which is a very small number of people who have been actually like academically trained in doing what I do. So I love what I do because people could look back at all of my projects and instead of going, ew, you were on that project, they go, oh wow, you were on that project. It really turned around. It really turned around. It ended up being okay. And I just nod and I don't even have to say anything because they already know. And so I love what I do because nobody can look back and tell me that I shit out any of my projects. I work my ass off. No, I'm not. No, I'm not even remotely fairly compensated. That's a huge problem. It's a huge problem that I'm going to be addressing here in a couple weeks. It's one of the reasons why I have so much anxiety right now. I'm not even remotely fairly compensated. It's a joke. And I tried to reach out. I tried to reach out to some other agencies, and all they wanted, I told them exactly what I wanted. And they're like, yeah, we have tons of opportunities, there's tons exactly for what you do, and then as soon as I talk to them, oh, no, they just want to take my contract over. I'm like, I don't need you to take my contract over. I need you to find me something with a competitive rate. But no, they just want the easy mode because, again, I'm dealing with a bunch of tons of mediocrity. They want to do the easy route. They want to take my contract over. They don't actually want to find me something competitive. Oh yeah, the rates right now are really competitive. Okay, cool. Help me out. Oh, we want to take your contract over. I don't want you to take my contract over. I want to find something competitive. Because here's the thing. They take my contract over. Oh, what? They get another couple dollars an hour to add to their ledger? They don't give a shit about me. Screw off with that garbage. They're like, agency reps are like glorified marketing chuckleheads. They are like used car salesmen. They are paid to act like they care. Yeah, they just want a percentage of your rate without any effort. Exactly. And then they forget you exist until your contract's over. And then they do just the minimal amount of effort to try to maybe find you something that they don't give a shit, because you have already made them all their money. And if they look around, and if they're working with 5 people, if 5 different like rate ranges, they're going to go help their buddies that are going to make them more of a margin. And so when I first started out, I didn't make them very much of a margin, because even though I didn't quite have my degree yet, I didn't have a lot of experience yet. I wasn't minimum wage. I was a couple dollars over what you get entry level for having your degree. And so I wasn't making them a lot of money. I was making them a decent amount, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like stupid amounts of money. So if they have a bunch of people with a bunch of different ranges, they'll go help their buddies. They'll go help their buddies that make them a huge margin. And they will let you get unemployed. They will let you lose everything, and they won't even submit you for jobs because they're too busy getting in a circle with their buddies. If you know what I mean. Busy taking out everyone to lunches all the time, making sure their agency pays for every single lunch of theirs and all their gases they gallivant around. Agency reps are the scum of the earth, along with the other scum of the earth, such as lawyers and marketing and sales. And just like, yeah. And I know I was gonna say like HR. HR is not the scum of the earth. HR is like the piranhas of the earth. But yeah, I love my job. I love what I do. I found my way early on. At first I thought I was really good at one thing, which I was really good at that one thing. But then I realized, even though that one thing was going to happen fairly often, oh, yeah, no problem. Go cook your chow. I'm going to be I'm recording all this, so it's going to go on my YouTube channel. I know we have a lot in common. It's kind of funny. I know you and I have talked before, and I'm like, holy crap, we do almost exactly the same thing. I don't often find other people that do what I do anymore, because I don't know why that is. Like, I noticed when I go to work at places, sometimes the entire rest of the department have the title, but they are 100% fake and have no idea what they're doing, and they can barely config. Barely config. They can sort of kind of gather requirements, do a tiny bit of config. Barely. What I would call the very beginning of like entry level. I wouldn't even know what to call that position. They're not really a config analyst, and they're not really a business analyst either. They're not really marketing. They're like between marketing and a BA, where they kind of just gather. They kind of gather like config requirements. I'm getting another doodle dot here. And I don't really, they unfortunately call them business analysts, but they're not. they just kind of sit there on the phone and sort of like almost like fill out a spreadsheet of what the person wants. How do those companies and departments perform with the average staff? They don't. This one company I worked for was selling their software for like 1 to 3 million a piece, and they had a really great marketing team, and they had their BA manager was stealing all of my work and using it to make more proposals with, to the tune of like $1 to $3 million, like every couple days. And they were making money like I have never seen in my life. They were insane, and it was my job to do the documentation for them. And she was stealing all my documentation and using it in proposals. She had no idea what she was doing. She was arguing with me and telling me I was doing it all wrong, but she really had no idea. And then I found out later she was using all my work when they were doing their business proposals. So, and then I got let go right before they would have had to give me a bonus for just millions and 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 millions of dollars while I was working there. And the other people in my team were coming up to me and going, you're the only one of us that is like the real one. They go, all the rest of us were fake. We only went to one class for like 2 hours. And I realized, like, aside from the VP, nobody else under the VP had any experience at all. And to answer your question, how do they perform? Without somebody like me, they disintegrate, which is why they bring somebody in like me to fix all their shit for them. And so I do all the documentation. I get everybody trained up. I get all their shit back in order. I help them with all their documentation, all their own stuff too, like their work in progress. I resort and I reorganize everything, and I get them all going again. And then I hope they're gonna actually keep me on to enjoy the fruits of my labor, especially this place. Holy cow. I can't believe how much money they were making. But instead, you know what it was like? I was always in trouble for not keeping my timesheet up to date with, like, I had to track what I was working on every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, I had to track what I was working on. Because the rest of the team was so entry level that they had no idea. And so they had to be tracked every 15 minutes. What are you doing? And some of them were nice. Some of them were felt very, very threatened, as they often do when somebody's around that actually knows what they're doing. And a lot of people there did not like me because they were so used to fakes. But I won all of the skeptics over very, very fast. And the answer is, how do they perform? They don't. They crash and burn, and they get dissolved. Because if you don't have somebody like me there or you don't have a competent team, the answer is they disintegrate, because sooner or later a customer is going to be smarter than them, which doesn't take much, and then they figure this ruse out, and then they take them for a ride, and these groups will lose everything. And they'll keep firing people to try to fix it, but they won't be able to. And they disintegrate, and they have to just keep firing people over and over and over and over, and it just never gets better. They slip into mediocrity and end up only being able to get contracts for other very, very, very desperate entities who are equally, if not greater, so failing, and then you've got a bunch of like mediocrity taking each other for a ride, selling programs to people who don't need it, because they're too stupid to know that they don't need it. This happens a lot. Oh, but Chance, how does this happen? I'm glad you asked. It happens because usually, like, the people with the purse strings in the corptocracy are so stupid that they don't know what their company actually needs, and they get razzled and dazzled by sales and marketing, which are both bottom features. They get razzled and dazzled, and they get promised these amazing things, and then they either don't read the contract, or like even the first third. If you're like on a $1 to $3 million contract and you've got to put a third of it down and it's non-refundable, the company's still making like $1 million even if they give you absolutely nothing. Right? It's genius. And it's genius, but it's also insane. I started working. I learned everything I could about the industry when I was 24. Yep. Yeah, I remember you told me that before. I tried to start my own business before. But I was not very good. I learned enough of everything to be able to do it competently, but it's really hard to work on your own and be successful on your own. You have to have a team, or you will get burned out. You have to. That's why I work so well in a team, because I'm really good at helping a team. I can't do the work on my own. I need a team. After 12 years, new calling, still be doing today if the health didn't. Yeah. That's really unfortunate. I've had a lot of friends in the past who loved doing what they were doing. A lot of them, they either got hurt or the economy just like took a shit in so many different ways. I had one friend, I think he was like one of those people that worked at the docks, like with the cranes and stuff, and he really liked that. He would like use the crane to get like the containers off ships and stuff, I believe, and I think that was like just a ludicrously like well-paying job. I don't think he didn't really like resonate with anything else, and he liked to operate those big cranes all day and sit in his crane and be left alone and move containers, and then the crash happened, the first and second crash of Mr. 44, and he lost he lost his job because we weren't importing anything for so long, and he finally got something, and I never heard from him again. But you can reinvent yourself if it's not too late. You know, as long as your health doesn't give out, you can reinvent yourself. But not everybody's like destined to do everything. Like, it took me a long time to work my way towards the whole writing books versus making comics, which I used to do, in terms of like running my own business. It took me a long time to find something that I was good at, that was sustainable, that I could handle most of the time with the mindsets that I have. And artistry is just not there, but writing is okay. And plus, I can write a lot. I realized I was really, really good at writing a lot, and so, you know, why not write speculative fiction? And it happens to be, you know, I try to find a really positive message. My comic was a really, really positive message too. I'm like, I can write and have a really positive message, and I can, through, like, you know, the power of positivity, maybe fix some things. If not, at least there's like a record of everything. So the problem is, though, and I realize this now, word of mouth, you have to be able to build a brand to be able to support your own marketing. So you need a team no matter what. I need a marketing helper. Like, if I was actually going to pour money into it, I need somebody to help me with marketing. I need somebody who already has an audience that's willing to help me. And I have been looking for somebody to help me that has an audience for like 4 or 5 years now. Almost ever since I started writing. With the webcomic, it was neat because I already had, like, there was already a built-in audience of people who just loved webcomics. But with speculative fiction, there isn't a central place for all of us. With webcomics, there is a central place for all of us. With speculative fiction, there isn't. And it's all gate kept. Whereas, like, webcomics weren't gate kept, but writing is. So I need somebody with an audience who's willing to help me. And then I can be a team with them. And I just haven't found that. I haven't found anybody that cares enough about my project as much as I care about everybody else's projects. And because of that, it resonates so much with me helping other people with their projects. That is what I keep doing. I'm trying to find people who actually want to collaborate, be a team. And that's why I think I'm going to be stepping back from a lot of things. Because I give people a little bit of time and try to see if they want to collab and be a team. And if they don't, I move on. And the places that I'm going to be distancing myself from, it's nothing personal. It's just that I need to be constantly working on trying to build something because we're running out of time. We're running out of time. And I'm so good at helping other people. And I don't know if like I should take credit for it, but I feel like I help people more than they realize. And none of us will ever really know until we're at the big gate in the sky. We'll never really know like how much we helped people. But I feel like I'm helping people. And I guess I'm just hoping that eventually the universe swings back around. Because I work hard. I shouldn't be scared. But I realized that I'm in another pit. I realized that I got stuck in another trap. That I worked really hard and just to dig myself a giant hole. And I realized that I'm almost the last person in this hole. And now that there's almost nobody left in the hole, I realize that it's a hole. And I'm stuck in it. And going camping and seeing the forest and seeing the woods doesn't get me out of this hole. But now that I see that I'm in it, I feel like I have a new sense of control. I just have to make sure that I don't self-sabotage. And so I think I'm seeing the situation in a lot more positive light now. It's weird. You'd think that it would have the opposite effect, but it actually feels empowering, and it feels like the validation that I needed. This feels like the last teeny tiny bit of validation that I needed, and so I feel like I have come out the other side. Which is amazing. I don't know if I've earned the right to not need recognition or validation anymore. But I certainly feel not vindicated. I feel like I have finally proven that I am worth way more than the hand I'm being dealt. Which is good. I just hope that I can pivot off of it and make the moves that I need to make. But I feel like, win or lose, I finally feel like whatever comes out at the end of this, I'm going to be better off either way. Because I think this last 5 years on this project, I think because of that, I finally know who I am. And everything seems really clear to me now. And I realize all this time, I've said this before, like when I started the bunker book, if you're like, what the hell does any of this have to do with anything? Like, with the bunker book, I spent 5 years beating around the bush, wanting to write books for people to put in bunkers, only to realize the whole time I should have written a dang bunker book. The problem is that until I had completed that journey of getting the skills and experience to put into the books, I wouldn't have been able to write a thorough bunker book. And I realized I don't need validation for that book anymore either. People could read it and say it sucks. People even that I respect could read it and say it sucks. But like, I realize now that I did my due diligence, and there may be some things on it that aren't exactly right, but I also realize that I'm not a nuclear physicist. You know, I'm just not. I don't understand isotopes in iodine versus iodide, but most people don't. But I know eventually, if I could find the right person to talk to, eventually I could figure out the difference between iodide and iodine. And then it's probably wrong in my book, but I don't think it's going to hurt anybody because I still think I tell people the right thing to do. But my book isn't made to teach people nuclear physics. And so I believe that my bunker book stands strong, and I think myself and my work ethic and what I do, I think I finally see it, and I think I finally know my worth and my value, and I think I finally know where I stand in the world. And because of that, I think I have reached the next level. I've come out the other side, and I've been like in a cocoon, and now I'm the next version of me. But now that I'm a new version of me, I know I have to be really careful. So I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I want to help people. I want to build something that gets us all where we need to go. But I am not like a super duper expert. I'm not like an amazing coder. I am not like a great engineer. I suck at art. I'm not even that good of a writer. I just know that I need to build something. And I know that I'm really good with teams and helping teams do things. And so chat has really died down, and so that probably means there's other stuff going on. And I think this is a good time to end the podcast. And I guess I'll finish by saying this is Friday, and on Tuesday I get the draft copy of the bunker codes hardbound. I forgot if I said this last podcast, but I'm being extra careful by not just publishing this early and then having to sit on it for 6 to 8 weeks while everybody else orders theirs, gets theirs before mine, and then I have to inevitably make changes. Then everybody's like, oh, you made changes. I promised I wouldn't complain about that anymore. I made that video and washed my hands, but I do learn, I do hear people, and so I ordered a proof, and it took a lot it's taking only like a week, which I can live with, and there'll be more on that later. And so on Tuesday will be my podcast, where I get it and review it and we see how it goes. I'm particularly interested in the margins, and I'm interested in how the color turns out. And if it does good, I want to do a comic book, because I already have a lot more fun hoodie art that I've been working on. but 29, plus some extra fun goodies seems like a good number. Like, I don't want to add any more art to the book, so we'll see how it turns out. If it turns out good, I'll make a comic book. I can probably get the comic book done way before I get the card game done, so let me know. So that'll be on Tuesday, and buy my books, and I appreciate all of you. And if you're one of like the 2 people that listens to this whole thing, I appreciate you. If you know any YouTubers who would like to talk about a book on their stream, like the whole podcast scene thing is just like dead. I haven't been on a podcast in forever because I couldn't get, I guess I'm not interesting enough, or I'm not bringing enough people to them. So the podcast thing has been DOA for like 2 years, which is just BS. So if you're one of like the 2 people that listens to this, I appreciate you. And if you know any YouTubers that are into books or something, just like please let me know, because I want to spend my marketing effort collabing so we can be teams and so we can build things and work together to build more people up. This isn't about building me up. This is about being a team and figuring this out together. So I think everybody left. I appreciate all of you listening, and I will talk to you all later. Bye. Buy my books.